Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Katherine McCord, founder of Titan Management, a US-based people operations consulting firm. Welcome to the show, Katherine.
Thank you so very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially, people in the workplaces, they will benefit out of you, of your special expertise of understanding things, of your expertise that you have gained, and of your expertise of achieving things despite and in spite of everything.
That's right.
So my first question is, Katherine, is that, help us understand about being neurodiverse. What exactly? A few people may know, but for the larger audience, you are, neurodiverse. So what should the audience understand of this particular word?
Right. And thank you for asking that question. So neurodiversity has taken on kind of a more specific meaning than what it originally had. So right now, there is a large neurodiverse and neurodiversity movement. And what that basically means is that there is a medically visible and or diagnosable difference in how the person processes information and stimuli. So think things like ADHD, epilepsy, autism, bipolar disorder, things like that. These are the conditions that just make them process information a little bit differently. But another big part of this movement is that different is not a deficit. So you're not less than because you have that, you just process differently. And what has happened is over time, science and medicine have realized that these conditions come with benefits as well as complications. So it's just a different way of being, not that anything is wrong with you.
Right. Thank you for helping us understand. Now we'll talk about, workplace discrimination, and we'll look at the solutions, how to actually overcome workplace discrimination. But first, to understand from you, Katherine, is that why does discrimination happen at the workplace? And second part, along with that, is that why is it that it happens with people who have some sort of a disadvantage? Normally it happens, there are toxic cultures, people don't like people, they are more busy in their own work, they want to become the CEO as soon as possible. But why do they have to cancel out, if I may use that word, people who are fighting to live life with dignity? Why does it happen?
So it comes from two different places: fear and ignorance. So one thing that happens is that our brain naturally creates assumptions known as biases. Biases are not always bad, but sometimes they can be. So a lot of times what's happened is people have a misconception of certain conditions. That can be due to watching too many TV shows about something, learning from people who do not have the proper education, that type of things. There are all different reasons that somebody may come up with something. It may also be their own discomfort. So for instance, if you see somebody who has to use crutches day to day in their life, if that makes somebody feel uncomfortable in themselves because they don't understand it, they can't relate to it, then they will automatically treat the person as less than because they feel uncomfortable. So a lot of times it's projection and has very little to actually do with that individual human. It's really kind of sad. And so it's one of those things. It can really, there's three different types of disability, right? There's legal, so whatever the legal definition is. And so here in the States, we have American Disability, so that's what governs that. Then you have the medical community considers this. And then you have social, which is actually the most common and the most debilitating, where other people are telling you can't, but really you can. So it becomes a major problem.
Right. So I wanted to understand for the audience from you, Katherine, is that if there is this sort of a discrimination about, especially about health conditions, if that happened, say 100 years before, when people had little knowledge about things, that would still be understood. And because a lot of work was being done physically,
Right.
now it was much more. So one could still understand that, uh, this is a different way of looking at things for those people. But in today's time, when your brain is the one which is doing a lot of work, your physical uh, attributes also important, but they are in a different standing at this point in time. So, and when we are talking of workplaces, we are not talking of factories. We are
Right.
talking of workplaces where people are coming from the best of places, best of business schools, best of careers, best of understanding of solving biggest problems of workplaces all around, B2Bs, and they talk about so many things. They talk about, and amidst all these things, we have so many thought leaders. They go out of their office, within the office, they talk big. And then this discrimination thing happens. Whose job is it to make sure that this is not happening? Why do people not understand that this is not just not inhuman, but also illegal? If I may look at it, every
Right.
country, every workplace has laws for this. Help us understand this mindset. Then who is physically not fit?
Right.
Who,
Well,
who is not physically fit here?
and,
Those
and, it,
people
and it,
with that sort of a discriminatory mind, they should be kicked out of the system. Help us understand this better.
I'm with you. I have a very low tolerance for people who are overtly rude. Now, there are a lot of things where it just, you may just not have realized that what you're doing is discrimination. So if someone tells you you have the opportunity to just learn and grow, and you do, and there's still the people that just really dig their heels in. And those people, very much to your point, I have a saying of fire the jerk. And I firmly believe in that. If somebody's just going to dig their heels and they don't want to learn, they don't want to grow, sometimes you do just have to let them go. But honestly, a lot of this comes from just really not understanding. So the whole world has been designed by, and this is very, very slowly changing, but the whole world has been designed by able-bodied people. And so even the areas where you're supposed to be accommodating, things won't make sense. So for instance, a lot of times when you go up to a building, you'll see the handicap part, right? And so that's center. But then the ramp to get up to the door is way over here. And as they have to park, go way over here, go up. Then there's, another button that they have to reach. They have to walk another few steps, hit the button, let the door open. It's a ridiculous process. Nobody who was actually disabled would have ever designed it this way. The same thing with offices. People forget to consider where people sit for those types of things. So it's just a matter of learning to think outside of yourself. I think that we forget as humans that people have different experiences than us. And so as leaders and as human resources, anything like that, training, anything like that, we need to think outside of ourselves and we need to practice listening to other people. I once got a piece of wisdom from the best manager that I ever had the privilege to work with, who said, ask them what they need. And so whomever it is that you're working with, whatever is going on with them, ask them what they need to learn, to work, to be comfortable in their job. Because when you do, and it's very easy, by the way, this is not complicated. It doesn't add a lot more work for you. I know because I've done it. It allows people to work in a way that is more functional and practical for them. And you start to realize all the little things that you were doing that accidentally hurt your team. And so you have just taking that extra little bit and that curiosity. And when somebody comes to you and says, this does not work for me, don't respond with ego. Don't respond with, well, this is how we've always done it. Or, well, I know this works, or this works for everybody else, or anything like that. Just say, okay, thank you. Tell me more about that. What can we do to be better? Responding with curiosity is absolutely key to this.
Right, Catherine. The workplaces being as they are, which requires a lot of change in the mindset, still people will need to, and especially people with some sort of a disadvantage in a different sense. I mean, they are actually
Right.
special because God gives them superpowers.
That's
Like
right.
your neurodiversity is your superpower, as you say. So how do these super powerful people when they want to get into the system because it is a requirement for them to earn their bread and butter, and also to get the rightful place in workplaces, also in society, and also in the scheme of things that God has designed. So they need to fight. And
Yes.
the first place they have to apply is that either they have to fight with some tech, or they have to fight with the HR. So for the tech is that the tech has to select them in that process of. So help us understand firstly about the role of human resources here, and then what about HR tech? What is this HR tech, and what role does it play in not selecting but eliminating candidates who may need one to
Right.
be paid?
So I'm actually going to start with the HR tech and then grow into it, because that's kind of the order that people see things. So HR tech and applicant tracking systems are how people receive, the HR teams receive your application. So whenever you apply to a job, you're applying through an ATS. So these systems were, again, not designed for everyone. They were designed very basically. They were originally designed back in the 90s as responses to the large job boards like Monster, Indeed, things like that. But what's interesting is they haven't really changed in design very much since the 90s, which is odd. And they'll have cool features on the back end, but nothing on the front end has really changed, which is peculiar to me with all these technical advances that are just not really bothering to actually change. So one thing that we kind of get stuck with is that people with neurodiversity, sometimes physical diversities, whether it be vision impairment, dyslexia, any of these types of things, they struggle with these technologies because it was not designed for them. And so we kind of get stuck, and sometimes the systems will say, oh, well, you didn't answer this question the exact way that we wanted, so to you. Or the people reading the response will do that themselves. So one thing, you can't do very much about the systems that will automatically kick you out, except for encourage companies to get better technology. But what you can do is word your resume. And I want to just say out loud, I am not a resume fan. They're awful. They need to go away. And yes, I do have a solution for that, but that's a whole other show. And so when you're working on your resume, one thing that you can do is help people to overcome their fears from the beginning. So, for instance, that if you have a physical disability that is visible to others, that they are going to perceive maybe weakness, maybe fear that you're going to be gone from work a lot, maybe fear that you won't be able to complete certain projects. So start from the very beginning of showcasing right off the bat, things that you've completed, accomplishments that you've had, recognitions, anything like that, to just set their mind at ease that you are capable right off the bat. And then the same thing as you go into the interview process. Humans are humans. They have biases. As in HR, it is our responsibility to continuously work on those things. But from the candidate side, you again can do things to help minds at ease. One of the things I used back when I was interviewing, and that I still use when I pursue clients, is humor. That's my personality. It doesn't work for everybody. But one thing that happens to me a lot is you'll see facial tics on my left side. I'll kind of be doing like this. And so I tell people, I'm not trying to pick you up for a date. I'm not like winking at you, trying to get from you. This is just a little bit of seizure activity. I'm okay. I can keep going. It makes people laugh. We can move on, and it works. My mother has rheumatoid arthritis, so she moves with a walker. Her hands often swell. She has trouble closing them. And so she'll go into conversations and just say, oh, you might notice I'm a little bit slow today, but don't let that fool you. I'm still a tiger. And so there again, that humor, right? So using something like that, you can address it head on if you want to. But also, again, just overcoming their fears, letting them know that you're confident that you can do it, and then letting them know how you can do it often solves the problem.
Right, Katherine. So talking of HR tech, what about you? You have designed something in HR tech, first ever fully accessible NTbits applicant tracking system, and that's tell us about that. And since it has happened in 2021, how is the adoption rate? And if there is something as good as that, are they adopting it? If that is the answer, why aren't they? And if not, they are adopting. Why are they not adopting it? which can fix this problem with HR tech and getting the right people into the system who will actually make a difference to the company and
Right.
difference to the.
So 30%, give or take, of the population is neurodiverse, fits into that category, right? And then you additionally have people with physical diversities, racial diversities, religious diversities, all this kind of stuff. And because HR tech had not really evolved in so very long, I set out to create a technology that was designed by the diverse for the diverse and by hiring professionals for hiring professionals. So it keeps everything better organized. But then when we had focus groups from every diversity that we could find, every single bit of their feedback is represented in the technology. So it's something that is more inclusive, more comfortable, helps them to better align themselves to the roles, and then helps the hiring team to better see who they are and who they actually need to be moving forward. It doesn't use names, it doesn't use dates, but we do have solutions to help you know longevity and all that kind of thing. And it's got a lot of skill matching, and it really is very specific in its questions, so that people aren't sitting there wondering what it is that you really want for them. It's very meticulously worded to help guide people through it. It does not take long to fill out. Very, very simple. So the whole thing is, it wasn't just designed by me. It was designed by everyone who looked at it and all of their different perspectives and all of their wisdom. And we are starting to see, so it was designed, we finished it in the end of 2021/early 2022. We're now just kind of in the beta stages, so not fully launched, but the couple of companies that are using it are really in it. They're finding it to be very helpful, very productive. But we are having some struggles getting more companies to use it. Some of that is that they feel like they already have something. Oh, we'll look at it later when we're looking at it. And then a lot of it is people don't want to change, and this technology is very different. It's not what they're used to looking at, and so it's that fear of change, fear of difference. So what I've been encouraging people who see the technology, and if anyone wants to see it, please reach out to me. I'm always happy to share. If you see it, you like it, you think it's a good idea, just encourage your company to do better, to get better HR tech. And even if you don't like mine, that's okay. Find something that you do like and encourage your company to do better and to be more inclusive with their technology. But that's really what it's about, is right now the people need to keep speaking up and going, we want better. We want better. And again, even if it's not my technology, fine, great. As long as we move the dial forward, that's what matters.
Right. Katherine, I want you to understand the present trend in hiring, recruiting. How exactly are people in companies thinking the way they want to hire? Sometimes they won't want people with less experience. They also don't want people with more experience because they are costly, so they remove them. And then there are so many other discriminatory factors, and those people who get hired, they are also not happy because they need work-life balance, and that is this issue of the great resignation.
Yes.
And again, those people who are still there is this quiet quitting happening.
Yeah.
So amidst all these things, I just want you to understand, is it a hiring process or is it an elimination process? And even if it's an elimination process, the people who considered that they were the best as per your hiring terms, they are part of the quiet quitting, and also they are quitting in large numbers, leading to the great resignations. So it means there is something very wrong with the system of hiring, recruiting, whatever it is. How do you look at it, and how this system can be fixed? Is it that people are actually working so much with bots and chatbots and chat GPT and GPT-4 that they are actually looking for people who are as who can actually give results like as if putting their prompts into those systems, and they want some candidates like those? Is it that maybe not by design, but by our mindsets, especially in the HR, it has become like to get candidates like those who will just have no issues, no questions asked. You don't speak anything, just keep on keeping, do what we say as per our prompts, keep on giving results. Help us understand this part of the trend, because this is how it seems to, in my understanding, things seems to be going.
It does. And to some extent, yes. So you have a lot of people that participate in the hiring process, whether it's HR, recruiting, or even the hiring team themselves, like the managers and all that, who have no idea how to interview, who have no idea how to actually find what they want. Just because you're good at managing a team and leading a team does not necessarily mean you're good at selecting the people for that team, because that's its own skill set. So one thing that really needs to start happening is we need a lot more training on how to properly interview. People are confused by this, and they don't ask the right questions. They don't know how to rope them to the answers. Another thing that is happening a lot, and it was taught very heavily, especially in the early 2000s, which is to picture your perfect candidate. Create a candidate profile. This is what we're looking for. Well, here's what happens when you do that. You just created a bias in your brain. And if somebody even slightly differs from that, your brain says, no, this is not correct, because we created our candidate profile. So you're thinking, oh, but I'm open to something different. No, you're not. You told your brain already, this is the correct answer. So anyone who even slightly differs is wrong. And there's no such thing as a perfect candidate. So that's where you see these long, like 4 and 5 and 6 month hire processes for roles that should have been filled within a week or two. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of not understanding how to prioritize hiring. You see people that have to go through a month and a half long hire process for staff level roles. That's insane. I've gotten a CFO from first interview to hire and offer accepted within 2 weeks. There's not a role that should be taking longer than 2 weeks. So it's from design from the get-go. So no more candidate profiles. It needs to be, what problem are we trying to solve? Find someone who can do that. Years of experience, that doesn't matter. Level of expertise, that's what we need to be looking at, because somebody can do something for 20 years and be terrible at it, and somebody else can be doing it for 2 and be a complete genius. So look for levels, and not that there's no value to years of expertise, there can be, but that shouldn't be the primary marker. Look for level of expertise, look for enthusiasm for the role, these types of things. That's what you're looking for. Somebody who has the passion, the drive, and the right skill set, which can come from anywhere. They may not have the exact job, but they've done enough things akin to it that they actually have the perfect skill set. So again, focus on problem solved, not candidate, and then learn how to interview. I mean, good grief. Even if your company's not teaching you, have the self-pride to learn your stuff, and don't Google top interview questions. That never works, and they're all terrible anyway. And start off by keeping in mind that candidate matters just as much as you. So you address the fact that then people get in, they're not happy because it's not the work life that they thought they would have. You need to make sure that you're what they want, because that's how you avoid that quiet quitting. That's how you avoid those people who are then very unhappy. So I start every interview the same way. I tell them everything I think they may want to know, from about the team, the job, what a day in the life is like, pay, benefits, all of that. And I ask if they have any questions, we address those. And then the first question out of my mouth the first thing I say is, tell me what matters to you in your next job. And then I just listen. And then we go from there, because that will tell you more about that person and their mindset and where they're at than anything else. So just getting to know your candidate is a big part of how to solve this problem, because people don't do that. They ask all these asinine questions that have very little that you should have known the answer to from their resume, quite frankly. And then they forget to really get to know the human. So learn how to interview, don't create an ideal candidate, and then get to know your candidate and make sure that they are going to be just as happy with you as the other way around, because ultimately that's how you're going to avoid that high turnover.
Right, Katherine, right. And therein comes your company, Titan Management. So tell us about your company and what are you doing there, and how are you trying to bring that difference into the workplaces?
So I built my company on my own personal 3 values, my own personal 3 missions, which are integrity, inclusion, and innovation. I love to innovate. I've got to do things a new way. I've got to always be pushing those boundaries, right? Inclusion is kind of, I feel like, self-explanatory, but I believe in true inclusion for everybody and everything. And then integrity. I never compromise my integrity. And so when I go in and I work with the client, it's a very different experience. I work on the people side of HR, so I don't do so much the compliance and the legal aspect, but I work very much, creating policies and procedures, building out HR, building recruiting programs, fixing recruiting programs, building inclusion, that kind of thing. I do classes on this, education on this. So if you want to learn how to interview, you can come to me. If you want to learn how to be more inclusive, you can come. And if it's a class that's better taught by one of my team members, I hand it off to them. But that's the work that we do. And our entire mission is to spread global inclusion and to spread innovation and to encourage people to think outside of the box at every turn.
Right, right. And seeing things, how should we understand? Does it look to be a very optimistic scenario or not so optimistic one? How would you describe the present trend as the way you see it?
Inclusion is always going to be challenging because you're asking people to change. And we see it right now in the States. We took 5 steps forward, now we're taking steps back. And that's common. That's how it goes. But we are seeing progress. And the best thing, the positive note that I'm taking is the curiosity that I see for inclusion right now is unlike anything I've seen in my lifetime, unlike anything my mother, who also worked in HR, saw in her lifetime. So we're getting a wave of interest that's never before been seen. And that's the encouraging thing to me, is that people are starting to go, wait a minute, I at least want to know more about this. And that's very exciting. So from that standpoint, it's very positive, but we also are realistic in the diversity and inclusion world of it's going to be several steps forward, several steps back, but slowly, we will inch our way forward. And to me, that's exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do people connect with you if they want to know more about Titan, how they know about you, if they need to connect with you, engage professionally?
So LinkedIn, connect with me, ask questions, even if you just have a diversity and you want to talk about it, if you want to meet your tribe, other people out there going through what you're going through, I love to make introductions. If you want to know about my services, Katherine McCord, I'm one of two people in the US with that spelling, very easy to find on LinkedIn. Connect with me. I also have my speaking site, McCord, like my last name, speaking.com. And then TitanManagementUSA.com is my professional site. And then I have a show, Career Launch Live, which will be back in about a month on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
Right, Katherine. My last question to you is, how would you like to tell about your own journey to millions of people who are fighting their own battles in their personal life, in terms of health, and also trying to find that place in the society, in the workplaces? As you say, you are battling more diagnoses than most 70-year-olds, and you have had that difficult journey, and neurodiversity, and still you call it as your superpower. But today you look strong, you are very strong, and I'm sure people can get a lot of inspiration from you. How do you look at this whole journey, and what is it that motivates you? What is it that you now seek for yourself, and whatever is, where do you want to go from?
I have a lot of health diagnoses. I mean, just tons, from, like I said, the seizure disorder, the heart problems. Now I have lung problems. You might have heard me cough a couple of times throughout the show. That's not sickness. That's my lung condition. Well, not like a flu. It's my lung condition. I have two autoimmune disorders. The list goes on and on, arthritis, so on and so forth. And then I have my neurodiversities. And the two I talk about the most is I have obsessive compulsive disorder, which actually makes me super organized in work, which is nice for that. And then it can be annoying in real life, but it's nice for work. And then I have a bipolar 1. And so when I'm in a manic stage, man, I am superwoman. I go 90 to nothing like a freight train, and it is something else to see. And so it's definitely a journey. I have days that are challenging physically. I have to do off camera sometimes for myself because of the seizure disorder. Sometimes I have to work bed, but I still work. I love my work. I wouldn't quit working. People go, oh, stop. I said, no, this is my mental health break. My work is my happy place. Please understand, this is what I'm doing. I'm happy doing this. but I do take breaks as needed. And my goal really, and it's not even because of me. People think it's because of me. I got into this work because of what I saw happening to other people, and the nonsense and the pain, and seeing that leadership would sometimes think that these things were okay. And so I decided, no, we need to fix this. So my goal is to make as big of a splash in the world of inclusion as I possibly can, and to keep pushing those boundaries and to keep telling people it's not okay to say, to exclude. It is not okay to quit innovating. It's not okay to be self-centered. We have to keep pushing those boundaries and welcome everybody, because that's how we move forward with and create a more healthy and sustainable society. So that's my goal.
Right.
Keep making a loud splash.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We got to keep fighting. And so, on this fighting note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KHM Masterclass Live. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much
having
indeed.
me.
Thank you so much.